Hello, everyone, and I hope you're having a great week. This week, I promised you that I would talk a little bit about miracles that have happened in my life and miracles that have happened in the lives of friends or people just in my community. I wanted to start off with the definition of a miracle, and there are a couple different definitions. A surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. Or, a highly improbable or extraordinary event, development, or accomplishment that brings very welcome consequences. And finally, an amazing product or achievement or an outstanding example of something. So those are a few definitions we can go by. And definitely, when I'm talking about miracles, I'm saying that somehow God has intervened. Somehow God has come down and showed us that He was the reason for this miracle happening. So throughout my life, I've seen a few miracles myself. And one miracle that really stands out to me, that I really thought about it as being a miracle, was when I was in college. My ex-husband was my boyfriend at the time, and he did not have enough money to pay for his next semester of tuition. And of course, you can imagine that felt terrible, and the two of us thought, oh no, he's going to not be able to attend college, and I was going to feel crushed because I was still able to go. And then, of course, he was thinking, oh, if I'm not in college anymore, we're going to grow apart, etc., etc. So we were very sad about it. And he walked across the street to a church that we belonged to one night and just prayed to God for there to be something that would be able to get him to pay for his tuition. And when he came back that night, he told me that he was the only one in church. It was very quiet. They leave it open for people who want to go and pray in there. And he walked up to the altar and touched it. And he said when he touched it, he felt this strange spark, this strange presence, like he felt that God was trying to tell him something. And he came back to me and he was just all flustered and couldn't believe this miracle that he thought happened. Well, the miracle was yet to come. The next day, he got a call, because back then we didn't have emails. He got a call from the Minority Affairs Office, and they told him that he had just received a minority grant, and that was going to pay for his tuition. So to me, that was a big miracle, and same for him. So that was the first one that I actually would call a miracle that I've noticed in my life. I also think that sometimes we always think that there needs to be something big, like that was a big lump of money for him. But sometimes miracles are small too. I consider this next story a little bit of a miracle as well. So when I got pregnant with my third child, I was a little distraught. I didn't think we had enough money, and I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to take care of a third child. And so I was a little bit shocked by it, and I even cried about it. Well, the Lord took that baby away from me, and I had a miscarriage. And when I had a miscarriage, I felt deeply troubled. I felt as if God took that baby away because I wasn't grateful. And I just felt awful. And I cried again because of losing that baby. And the doctor wanted to do what they call a D&C and sort of scrape things out. And I just thought that seemed sort of rough, and I didn't want to do that. And my father-in-law said, okay, well, if you don't want to, that's up to you. I hope you know what you're doing. And then it made me sort of second guess, should I have done that? That's what the doctor recommended. But anyway, usually when you have a miscarriage, you aren't going to be able to have another child for at least 6 months or so. And within a month, I was pregnant with Roy. And you can bet your bottom dollar for that pregnancy, I was head over heels and overjoyed. And so Roy is my little miracle baby. So right there is my second miracle. I've also seen some strange miracles that have happened throughout our life. For instance, when Roy was little, he had a lot of medical problems as far as his gastrointestinal tract would go. And we were just lying on his bed. I had told him a story goodnight, and I was just praying in my mind, just talking to God, saying, could you just show me what I can do to help him so that he doesn't feel sick all the time. And I kid you not, you can verify this with Roy. Just out of nowhere, Roy just spoke gluten-free. He didn't even know what it meant. And I thought, what the heck? And, I looked it up. I've heard about it before. And cutting back on gluten really helped him a lot. So that was a strange little miracle. It was like God answered me, even though, Roy had no idea what I was thinking in my mind at the time. And then, some other miracles had happened to me when my ex-husband and I were on the way to see a lawyer during our divorce. This car on the expressway was on the side of us, and it swerved, and it was sliding right towards us, right into the front end. And I kid you not, again, it was like it's like I saw the car go through our car. It didn't even hit or damage our car. And I had braced myself for impact, and the car just was now on the other side of us. And I was like, how could that happen? So to me, that was a miracle that day, because when I saw the car coming towards us, I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. And then there was, a couple of smaller miracles. For instance, there was a day in which my daughter Kiwi was going to have to spend the whole day at school, and she didn't have any money on her, but she had brought some food with her. And she filled up her water bottle at home, this big, tall water bottle. And she was getting out of my van, and I said, oh, if you need a water bottle, I just bought some, and they're in the back of the van. And she said, no, I have my big water bottle. And she said, well, maybe I could bring one of those store-bought ones, because sometimes if my water bottle gets low, I try to conserve it, and this way I'll be able to drink more water. Well, when she opened up her book bag to put the store-bought water bottle in there, she realized she had left her giant water bottle on the kitchen counter. And I never say that to her, so it was just like a little miracle that God told me to say that to her that day, because it wasn't something I would normally say, and therefore she got water while she was at school. And then my son Roy, he had some problems with a teacher the first semester of his college year, and because of his medical conditions and the teacher not being so cooperative, he ended up dropping that course. And so for the second semester, he needed that course, and so he was going to take it again, and it was going to be with that same professor. And we prayed about it, and I prayed that Roy would be able to just deal with what he needs to deal with so that he can get the course completed. And then I also prayed that the professor would have some compassion and see that Roy is a hard worker, and that he has these medical conditions, and just hoped that the teacher would have some compassion. And Roy went to class that day, and when he was done, he texted me, and his text was sort of like happy, and I didn't know what to think. And he came out and he said, the teacher is totally 180 degrees from what he was before. He was laughing. He was kind. He told me to not worry if I need to miss class. He said, it was like he was a different teacher, but it was the same teacher. So once again, the Lord had answered our prayers and gave Roy a great first day at school. And he is still in that course right now. So that's wonderful. So as you see, some of those miracles were big, some of the miracles were small. And now I would like to share with you some miracles that were given to me by some of my followers. Some of them have allowed me to use their name. Some of them want me to keep their name private. And I'm going to sort of read to you the messages that they sent me. So bear with me as I read them. And remember, they're sending me these messages in a direct message, so it's sort of casual talk, and I'm just going to read it the way they sent it. The first miracle comes from Kobe O. And this is what Kobe said. When I was in the Army, I arguably was at my lowest mentally and had a plan that if I failed being a soldier, I was going to commit suicide. I was very serious, and the day I would say a miracle happened was at the last shooting range. I had been mocked for trying to remember things, gotten in trouble for being confused, and just couldn't pass my PT test. And I had a plan to take the live ammo, sit in the waiting bench, and in the short time I was on my bench by myself, I was going to load my weapon and shoot myself through the roof of my mouth. When I was walking to the bench with the weapon and live ammo in hand, I seriously heard voices that I never heard before say, "Don't do it. We love you," multiple times. Next thing I know, I was underneath a tree by myself, and I got word that I had passed my last shooting test. Then the next morning, I did another PT test and passed all of the segments, push-ups, sit-ups, and the 2-mile run. And later that day, my drill sergeant said that for a little award ceremony she made up herself, I was the most improved. Now, my depression and suicidal tendencies return every now and then, but since that day, they have become lessened over the years, that so far this year, I have not had one depressing day. Also, something I forgot to mention, it was especially bad for me to almost do what I did, because I helped form a Christian group on the bay where we'd gather around for a few minutes, say a prayer, and encourage all of us to do our best despite those prayers. I had put myself on a pedestal, which was unrealistic for me to reach. I believed that this was the end all by all, and if I failed at something my family has a history in and are so proud of, those in the military families, that the family members, including my brothers in the Marines, then I would have failed at life, being a man, and will be forever seen as a failure to my family and at life. The next miracle is a miracle by Aaron. And Aaron said, "I've thought of sending this several times, but I wanted to tell you about something that happened to me. Back in 2006, I had a bad stroke. I was in the shower and aware of what was going on long enough to shout to my sister for help and try to pull myself out. Though with half my body numb, I only resulted in getting a nasty bruise on the back of my head and knocking my lights out. It was here that in my state of blackout that I heard someone speak. It was as though they were right next to me. They said that death won't have you today. I came back to my senses in a hospital, with my parents talking with the doctor. They saw that I was awake and rushed over. They said that the concussion on the back of my head knocked me out for an hour, though there was no signs of any cracks in the skull. They told me that I had a stroke and had 2 blood clots go from somewhere in the body and into my brain. I was being shipped to Breckenridge Hospital where they did tests to figure out what caused the stroke. They performed an MRI, a bubble test on the chest, and even inserted a chip into the hip to inspect the arteries for any clogged areas. They found nothing and were baffled. To this day, I do not know what caused the stroke. My dad told me that I gave my guardian angel some overtime with what happened. This was probably the closest to death that I have ever seen in my 34 years of life." Again, hearing some voices, letting you know that you are okay. I think that's wonderful. And now, I have a miracle by Cyberman. Once, when I was little, me and my grandpa were at home while my other family members were at some party, I think, when my grandpa noticed something wrong, something he smelled. He smelled smoke, but did not know where it came from. But he got me and my dog Romeo out of there in time before my room's floor collapsed by a fire that started when one of the plug outlet wires caused the fire, which is what a fireman said. He also said that the fire should have spread more, but he had no idea how it didn't, only that a small cross we had fell and stopped the fire from spreading more somehow. We had spent a month in a small duplex across the street while they were repairing the house, and they said it was a miracle that the rest of the house was not burned down. Still, I often wonder how strong this house is to this day, or how lucky we were to still have it now. He said that this happened in the month of November, 1995. And now, a miracle from Gas Hog. He writes, for the last few years of her life, and he's speaking of his grandmother, me and my family would go to a church service at my great-grandmother's house every Sunday because she couldn't get out much. We would sing some hymns, do a short lesson, and the Lord's Supper. One day, as I was about to leave, it's like I could hear my conscience tell me that that was the last time that I would see her. So I went back in her room, said I loved her, hugged her, and left. That next morning, I woke up to my mom leaving really early, and I asked her what she was doing. She said Mama Lucille passed away earlier that morning in her sleep, 8 days before her 98th birthday. To this day, I think it was God that made me have that thought, giving me one last memory with her that will stick with me forever. I think that's beautiful, that you were able to go back and say that to her one last time. And then this person's name will remain anonymous. And he said, I was sad and depressed in college. I was almost dead set on killing myself when I opened YouTube Music, and in my recommendations was this song, and I listened to it. And after, I didn't feel sad and depressed anymore, and I didn't want to kill myself anymore. The song was from Journey, Don't Stop Believin'. And that same friend had sent me a song once, and as I listened to it, I really felt that the song had helped me with some problems I was having. And I didn't know this, but he was feeling depressed, and he was feeling that he wasn't a very good friend to me. He was feeling that the friendship was all one-sided and I was always helping him. But I didn't know that he was feeling that way. And I had sent him a message saying how much I really enjoyed the song and told him how the song had helped me and thanked him for sharing it with me. And it really made him feel as if God was talking to him, as if God was answering him saying, you shouldn't feel this way because you are a good friend. And it made him know then that he was a good friend. And that may seem just like a little miracle, but it's a miracle when someone's feeling down or feeling depressed or feeling a certain way and not knowing what really is going on. It's great when God can answer you and let you know what's going on. If you have any miracles you'd like to share, let me know. But I just want to say that miracles do happen. And if you're paying attention, you'll see them, you'll hear them, you'll feel them. Don't be closed-minded to the miracles because they do happen, and I pray that you can see them around you. Next time I will read the next chapter in The Case for Miracles by Lee Strobel. Look for some miracles this week. See if you can spot them. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.